This video is dedicated to anyone who is always being told they're too much, and yet oddly, you still feel like you're never enough. Everyone tells you you're too sensitive, you're too needy, you're too clingy. But then when people leave you, you think to yourself, if only I were more. If only I were more of what people wanted or needed, then I would be able to get my ex back, or at least find a relationship where I don't feel like I'm always the one reaching. You're too much, yet you're never enough. I know this feeling well. Hello friends, my name is Maria, and for almost 20 years I was involved in relationships with avoidant and emotionally unavailable people who always made me feel like being myself was the main thing I was doing wrong. Have you ever felt this way? And then you go online to see why they're acting the way that they're acting, and oh, what a surprise, you find out you're the reason everyone's blowing you off. Don't you know that your avoidant needs to feel that they are never criticized, regardless of how they act? They need the freedom to be able to come and go whenever they please, whenever the mood strikes them. Sure, that sounds completely reasonable if you were a cat. Yeah, because you failed to be more feline, you failed everyone involved. You failed the relationship because you stubbornly insisted on being too human. Well, if you are tired of shape-shifting in order to keep relationships, and you would love to grow a relationship without having to grow a tail, then grab a bottle of nail polish and let's talk. Last week I came across a small channel that was a lot like mine. It was a gentleman who'd gone through a relationship and a breakup with an avoidant, and now he's on YouTube telling people about his experiences, hoping that they will learn from it. Now, I believe that his intentions are good, and he is a small channel, so I'm not going to call him out. So let's just say this talking head channel, his name is Bob. Now, the thing about Bob is he didn't just go through a relationship with an avoidant. He married one. They were married for years until the day, according to him, she completely pulled the rug out from underneath him. He thought everything was fine. The next day, divorce papers. And I commend him for trying to keep people from going through the same pain that he felt. But the main issue I have with Bob is, once again, the theme is, here is how you can communicate with your avoidant partner so they don't leave. And it makes me sad that Bob's main takeaway out of his entire experience is the relationship failed because he was the one who didn't change his behavior. But you know, how can you even know that something is wrong or that you need to change your behavior if the other person doesn't communicate with you and then takes off out of nowhere? Everyone on the planet tells us that we need to be more open and upfront with our feelings when it comes to dealing with avoidance. But number one, that seems to be what makes them run for the hills. And number two, they're not giving us the same respect. If you watched this man's channel for even 5 minutes, you would know Bob is the kind of person where if he thought his wife was so deeply unhappy, he probably would have done anything to keep her around. And I'll tell you something else that upset me. Bob doesn't give himself enough credit. He even stated in his video that if you want to know more about the subject of how to communicate with avoidance, go ahead and click on over to Chris Cedar. Bob specifically says that Chris is way more knowledgeable on the subject of avoidance than he is. Now, I know Chris has a channel where he's talked for years about attachment styles, and there's nothing wrong with that, because when we get blindsided by a breakup or we just figure out someone's an avoidant, they're not going to communicate that with us. It's nice to be able to go somewhere and learn about attachment styles, so at least that helps close a little bit of the open loop in your brain. But I have also heard Chris say that over the years he realized that his customers were mainly anxious, trying to get their avoidant exes back, and because of that, he had to read a lot of books in order to learn about avoidance. I understand reading is how we learn about things. I can also tell you, as someone who has owned 3 businesses and been to business school, real life experience trumps reading a book every single time. Bob isn't giving himself enough credit. Bob has gone through the dating process, the marriage, and a divorce with an avoidant. He's been through the blindsiding breakup. He is someone who had to face a hard reality and push himself through it. And yet Bob is denying his own experience as valid because he's telling you that someone who read a book knows more about the subject, and I would challenge that. It wouldn't have mattered if Bob was a cat, a turtle, or a horse. His wife was destined to leave him because she hadn't healed herself. And now, unfortunately, Bob is just another channel on YouTube telling you that if you don't straighten up and act right and stuff down your human emotions, well, you're going to lose your avoidant forever. And boy, what a loss that would be. Well, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, and I refuse to accept that caring about another human being constitutes a major character flaw. If you fall into this trap where you have to be this and you have to be that, you will never experience the happiness that you were meant to have. You know, when I did my very first video on avoidance, I had a gentleman in the comments tell me that he was listening to the video and he pulled over on the side of the road and he was just sobbing because the woman that he had loved for years, that he could not let go of after the blindsiding breakup, chose to spend every weekend alone with her cat above spending time with him. And I know it hurts when you are dumped and your avoidant runs off with someone else, but just imagine the complete heartbreak knowing that your avoidant didn't even leave you for somebody else. They left you to be alone with their cat. And as tempting as it may be, do not be jealous of the cat. And I would like to personally take a moment and celebrate this gentleman because he came to his moment where he realized, I am afraid to leave behind my avoidant ex, but I am more afraid to not live the way that I really want to live. I would have loved for that relationship to work out, but if she wants to sit at home with her cat, that's her problem. And now you know what he's doing? He's out on dates with real people, having a lot more fun. And some people could say, well, it's easier for him. He's a guy. Guys move on faster because they don't have as many emotions. Some people say, no, it's easier for women. Women can move on faster because they have way more options. And on top of that, some people say it doesn't matter as long as you're hot, all of your relationship problems are solved. Well, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also have to take care of the inner half. Because if all it took to have a fairy tale relationship was to be a man, a woman, or be good looking, no one would even be watching this video right now. In fact, there are so many get your avoidant ex back videos out that if the advice actually ever worked, no one would ever have to come up with a brand new video. Because all these channels do is tell us how kind and caring and open and patient and empathetic we need to be. But it's weird that that doesn't work, right? Because we already are all of these things. So why isn't it working? And in my experience, very sadly, the only time I've ever gotten avoidant ex to feel anxiety and come around again was when I finally said, screw it. I'm gonna go off and do whatever I want. You know, like a cat. But again, I'm not a cat, I'm a human. And the moment I showed any of my humanness, poof, they were gone again. Because what nobody wants to tell you is that we cannot control anybody. That's just actually a pretty egotistical way of thinking. We don't have that much power. We shouldn't even give ourselves that much credit. Telling people to hold in their needs until they're blue in the face is advice that doesn't work. And that's what I would like my viewer to know. The girl who asked me, how did you calm down your anxious tendencies? Well, one of the things that I learned is there's a difference between being kind and kissing someone's butt. And I've also learned that you'll never be too much for the person who's right for you. I do empathize with you on the point that there have been times where I feel like my anxious tendencies have accidentally cost me opportunities at the very beginning of meeting someone. And if you would like to learn maybe a little exercise that you can do to start to calm these tendencies down, I have a video called Get Their Attention Now, Text Back Later. It's a video that helps calm down that knee-jerk reaction to feel like you always have to drop everything to text someone else back, and I'll put a link to that video down below. Doing little practices like the one in that video did help me calm down my nervous system because it does teach your body that, okay, I don't have to double text this person. I can wait for them to text me back. I don't have to text them back right away. And it teaches your body to calm down, because when you're not doing those things, it's okay. And your body learns, oh, I didn't do all this stuff I normally do, and it's okay. And that starts to subconsciously and physiologically help you calm down. If we've gone through relationships and breakups with toxic, unavailable, and avoidant people, it can really wreak havoc on our nervous system, and it starts to sabotage future relationships because we start to feel desperate, like we'll never find somebody, or man, I really messed up that relationship, because let's face it, that's all you're ever told. But the next time you're dating somebody and they're telling you you're being a little too much, oh, you're being too sensitive, really listen to that. It's a good thing you're sensitive. It means you have the acuity to sense when something is wrong. So yes, on one hand, I did use little practices to help calm down my nervous system, but here's the other side of that. You also need to define what triggers you and know that that relationship isn't going to work for you. If you have an abandonment wound, if you have a big anxious attachment wound, long distance relationships, online relationships, dating people who take 4 days to answer you back, or maybe someone who just doesn't feel like spending their weekends with you, or they only feel like going on a date every 2 weeks. Yeah, that's probably not going to work out, because your gut is telling you that this isn't enough. There's a reason that you're craving more. It's because you're not getting enough. It's the same reason why calorie deficit crash diets don't work. It's because human beings are not willing to voluntarily starve themselves every day for the rest of their life. If you squash down your needs for too long, there's gonna be a blowback, and it's not gonna be healthy for anybody. Life feels so much better when you're not waking up in the morning, looking into the mirror and saying, you know what? I'm okay with not giving you what you want today. I have also learned that people who tell you that you're too sensitive and you need to be more, live in the moment and you need to be more spontaneous are also people that generally are trying to emotionally manipulate you, because they're the kind of people where everything needs to be convenient for them, come and go as they please. Maybe life shouldn't be so convenient for everybody. Your ex is choosing to spend time alone or with their cat over spending time with you. And even though all the videos will tell you, oh, I know it seems that way, but deep down they hate it. They really want a relationship. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like there is a law in this world that says if you're going through something that you're uncomfortable with, you're going to either have to change yourself to adapt, or you're going to have to find a solution and overcome. Because in this life, when you make decisions, you have to deal with the consequences. That's how life works. You've been through plenty of hard things that you have to overcome, so why do you let everyone else get a pass? You aren't even doing your avoidant ex any favors by believing this BS that not only do you have to relieve them of the burden that everyone else has to go through, but also that it's your responsibility to take this burden on yourself. And if these channels are right, and all your avoidant ex wants in the entire world is a relationship, then the kindest thing you can do for them is leave them alone. Let them be uncomfortable. Stop giving them a pass. Don't make yourself an option for them. In fact, you know what? Maybe this weekend it wouldn't be such a bad thing if you were a little more cat-like and just did whatever the hell you wanted to do. Whew, I tell you, I feel like I am on a sushi roll. Kitty cats love sushi. If you enjoyed this video, you'll like that one. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting. The Other Half.